Hi again. Continuing our series on the history, design, and the selection of knives. Today's book does cover the selection. Previous books we've reviewed have been more about the history and the collecting side of specific knives, but we're going to look at a book which covers the qualities that you assess when you're selecting a knife uh, for your particular requirements. And it's this book, Street Steel by Michael Janich, Choosing and Carrying Self-Defense Knives. Now, Michael Janich is a noted instructor. He has a system called the Marshall Blade System of knife self-protection training, and he has also designed a couple of knives, including for Spyderco, the Ronin and the Yojimbo. So he is very authoritative on what he speaks. The book starts off with the basic requirements of a knife for self-protection, the ability to slash as well as stab, that kind of thing, the size, what type of edge, whether you're going to use it for utility, general tasks, cutting packages open or anything related to your work, or if it's going to be purely for self-defense. A friend of mine in the United States works in remote areas on power lines and things like that, and he carries 3 knives, and they're all folders, because he's often hanging on with one hand, and he has to access a knife for various reasons. It might be this hand he's holding on to, so he has knives in different locations, and he does use them. It's very much a utility thing, but he also trains in self-protection for that reason. He can use the knives for defense if necessary. Then he goes into a chapter on fixed blade versus folder, the considerations of that. Now, tactical folding knives became very, very popular at one time, and lots of the manufacturers were offering them, and there was lots of variation in them. And I think it's safe to say we all embraced them at one time. But there are some caveats when it comes to the folder, in my opinion. A lot of people would turn up on courses, and they were fairly adept at manipulating the folder as long as there was no stress involved. And it's not good enough just to sit on the sofa watching television and practice opening the knife. There's got to be the realism. And I've seen people literally throw the knife across the gym as soon as the stress comes on. And we have some methods of applying the stress safely to test this out. And if that's a consideration, then maybe the folder isn't the knife for you if you can't perform under stress with it, or if that knife isn't very suitable under stress. He goes into the different options of a folder, how they're opened, the hole, the stud, the disc, and so on, and then the opening methods, the different ways you can open them. So it's a whole subject in itself, and it's got to suit the individual user, and he makes that very, very clear. Another section is the carrying of fixed blade knives, the options on that. The obvious one is the sheath. How does the sheath affix to the belt? He warns against some of the clips, because we found this with the clip-on holsters with pistols, that many of the designs which seem to be fine would work loose. There are clip designs now which are very positive, which actually come up the belt, so there's a U shape which locks to the belt. They're better. Then there's inside the waistband designs. Then at the time of writing of this book, this was a new system, and it was more or less proprietary to this one maker. Very, very nice design, Japanese type handle, James Pioric. And he came up with what he called the ripcord method, or the static cord method. And what it is the sheath is within the belt. It has a cord which loops round the belt, and then the handle of the knife protrudes. As you draw the knife, the sheath comes with it, but then it reaches the end of the static line and the knife comes free. It's a very simple design, and it's been embraced by a lot of different manufacturers. I've got it 3 or 4 probably now that work on that principle. And once you practice with it for a little bit, it's neat. It's a good system. The book goes into things like I'll just get the next section is carry options for folding knives. Now you think, well, Spyderco solved that one with the clip, the clip-it knives, which works for a lot of people, but there are other options. You can get Kydex sheaths to carry the folder either open or closed. Some of them are custom made. There was one on offer in South Africa in Sharp Edge in Santon, a sheath, Kydex sheath, neck sheath, and it would take the civilian, and I never picked it up, and I always regret that. That would have been a good option. So there's that, and there's also just putting the folder in a pocket, and he has some tactics for that. So any book, and I think I warned about this in the first video I did in this playlist, any book that is about knife selection for current conditions has to be out of date as soon as it's published, because more stuff comes out. And some of the knives that are mentioned in this were very, very popular. For example, the Griffon M10. James Keating did a whole video just around that. I know Marcus carried one. Great design. I never picked one up, but I always saw the value in it. But there are knives that do that job every bit as well now. A lot of the knives that I would favor and recommend are not in this book because they've come out since the book. However, the principles of knife selection and carriage and so on are pretty universal, and so the book is still relevant. And Mr. Janich should put a lot of information in there, and he's a chap who knows what he's talking about, and it's a book which I've found quite a bit of value from.